This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
Support for this program comes from the Gail and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation, committed to funding educational causes.
Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
We count on Informed Sources to continue the discussion on important local issues.
It's where our top journalists discuss stories they've covered. Stay informed with Informed Sources.
Hello, I'm Marcia Kavanaugh. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, it has become a tradition for us to begin each new year by looking at the past through the eyes of political cartoonist Walt Handelsman, the two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning artist whose work appears in the Times-Picayune and the New Orleans Advocate. We'll do so again to discover his perspective of local and global news stories. Also, Handelsman has announced his retirement. So we'll look at some of his stories of his choice of the best of Walt from his career. Joining me are our Informed Sources, Errol Laborde, producer of Informed Sources, and Walt Handelsman, retired editorial cartoonist for the Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate. Welcome again, Walt. It's always so much fun to do this year review with you, and with taking a look at all your wonderful cartoons that all of us wake up to each day and say, good for a chuckle, or maybe, good for a little bit of a sigh. Always wonderful to see your perspective, but you're not going to be doing this. You have now retired.
I have retired. It's new. But 40 years of daily deadlines and covering news and putting my opinion into cartoons was a great run, and who knows what I'll do in the future. But,
well, we hope that we'll see some of it in the future, too, down the line, because we've enjoyed it for so many of those years. I mean, you have been in other places in New Orleans. I mean, you didn't just do your cartooning work in New Orleans, right? Right.
I started in Baltimore at a chain of weekly newspapers, and then got a job in Scranton, Pennsylvania for 3.5, 4 years as my first job as a daily newspaper cartoonist. Came here in 1989, worked for the Picayune until 2001, and was offered a job at Newsday in New York, which I took, and I missed New Orleans, but it was a great opportunity, and my aging parents were in Baltimore. And then when John and Dathel Georges bought the Advocate and moved it to New Orleans, I thought that might be a great opportunity to join in on that project. I felt terrible that the Times-Picayune had gone to 3 days a week, and we made that happen, and I'm very happy that I did that, and I think they are too.
So are you going to stay in New Orleans now that you are retired?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so you got bit by the New Orleans bug, huh? You definitely...
We've been here, 30 years, so yes, and absolutely going to stay in New Orleans.
Well, congratulations to you. I mean, so well deserved. You've done amazing work throughout the course of your career. We wish you a wonderful, happy retirement, but still kind of sorry to see you go. I know I've seen comments and heard from people. It's like, oh, we can't believe he's doing this, but happy for you. Now,
thank you.
Let's take a look at what some of his work has been for this past year, which certainly has been a very, very eventful year for year 2025. And we shall start with taking a look at some of the cartoons that Walt did, sort of taking it with a local focus to begin. And there we are. Don't you remember? This is the way we began our new year.
This is the way we began our new year. And I did a couple of cartoons on this, but I put this in this package because wanted to represent, once again, the resilience of New Orleans. The first responders were amazing, but a terrible way to start the new year.
Terrible way to start the year. And as you reminded us, look at the hourglass. I mean, just a few grains of sand going through it.
I think that expression on his face perfectly captures the mood of the day, because what was strange about that day, New Year's Day, this is the day when people go around the parties and they see people and they say, Happy New Year. So people going around saying Happy New Year at the same time, they know there was a terrorist incident.
Yeah.
And so you kind of see the interplay of the two.
Yeah.
Very emotional day.
It was hard to believe. It really was, to wake up to the news, if you weren't up all night, and wake up to the news that this happened here
Yeah.
in our city.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on. Now this is a little bit brighter.
Well, you know, having grown up in Baltimore and lived part of my life in Pennsylvania and New York, I'm used to snow, but that little mini blizzard we had here was awesome. My neighbors loved it. All the kids were outside. There were adults out there that had never been in snow and played in snow. And that was a real snowstorm.
Yeah.
And I'm a golfer, so my ideas were, you know, we might have been playing golf that week, and that was canceled.
Yeah, definitely should have checked the forecast. Nobody expected this, and it was such a delight,
Oh, it was
particularly
great,
coming
yeah.
after that terrorism attack, to have this beauty in the city and such fun.
Yeah.
It was a good thing to have.
It was great.
Okay, next one.
So the next one's on the problems with the jail. There were the famous jailbreak and stories about, you know, people getting out and leaving doors unlocked, just dysfunction. So I drew this cartoon after that, with the judges saying, you know, you'll remain in the parish jail until you sneak out or you're accidentally released. So, I mean, that's just an amazing story. I did a few cartoons on that, but
Yeah,
the
well,
dysfunction.
I'm sure that, yeah, definitely you could have gotten a few cartoons, because that was, again, an amazing story, an unbelievable story. And, you know, this just conjures up that video image that I'm sure all of us have now seen at least 1,000 times of the gang of inmates just running off the loading dock and,
Yeah.
you know, jumping down and making their escape. So this is really an incredible incident in New Orleans. Now, this is something that, you know, of course, it affects more than just New Orleans, you know, just the entire coastal
Sure.
region.
Yeah.
And it's ongoing. It is ongoing.
Well, I've drawn so many cartoons about flooding and about, you know, wetlands erosion and whatnot. So the imagery here it came to me very quickly, because, I mean, I think this is a disaster, and I think it's ill-advised, and, you know, everyone here knows we have a lot of problems with water. We have a lot of that's probably our biggest problem. And so, you know, canceling a large coastal restoration project is not the way to go. And that's the expression on this guy's face, is kind of how I think many people felt.
Yeah, well, there are those who definitely agree with you, who say this is just a really, really big mistake. This is the way to restore the coast. And then, of course, there are those who say they totally disagreed with this massive project. Now, we're talking about the Mid-Barrett area, sediment diversion, and then also the Mid-Breton has also been canceled. So there are
Well, as we know, there's a
sets of
whole
opinions.
show on that debate. But I come down on the side of, we need to look a longer picture and bigger picture, and we have the evidence of what happens when this is not taken care of. So,
Right. And of course, it is a water issue for us. Gee, we need the coast to protect us from surge, but the coast is disappearing. All right, and here we go, continuing to talk about water.
yeah. So there was a study that came out, so that the walls are sinking ever so slowly, but sinking and sinking. And so I came up with this idea to show the walls going down by having the letters covered, and once again, a guy looking shocked and dismayed at what's possible. So,
Yes, but that is certainly also, again, a problem, an ongoing problem
Yeah.
in this area is sinking, and you know, that's contributes certainly
Yes.
to our erosion problem too.
yes,
is
the city
floods.
is sinking and the walls are sinking.
The walls are
and
sinking.
My
and then-
backyard is sinking.
And we don't like to think of anything happening to those walls,
No,
giving memory
no,
to
no, no,
Katrina.
no,
That's
no,
what
no.
happened. The flood walls and
Right.
inundated us. All right, speaking of Katrina, here we are.
So, you know, I knew I would be drawing a cartoon about the 20th anniversary of Katrina, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I wanted to say. I really wanted to say, once again, that we're here, the city is moving forward, has moved forward, but it's left its mark, it's left a stain, if you will, and so kind of a hopeful cartoon. Hopefully, you know, the city will not have to ever go through that again. But it's a difficult topic. There are so many things you can say about Katrina.
But you know that line up there, that water line,
Yeah.
that is something that we really, those of us who went through it,
Yeah.
really remember.
Yeah.
You know, it was everywhere. That water line was
Yeah.
everywhere, inside your houses, outside of buildings, and it just told us
awful
how
reminder.
devastating
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. So.
Okay, now we move on to some politics.
Well, this one, I mean, the mayor's had so many problems, and then ultimately gets indicted. So this is a tough cartoon, but I think, cartoons are tough at times. They're funny at times, and I think this is fair commentary. I'm sure she didn't like it if she saw it, but I feel like it, if you'll excuse the pun, reflects how many people feel about her.
I thought this was a powerful cartoon. I remember in the morning when they came out and seeing that and really just being, first of all, I'm impressed by it, but you're right, it's a tough cartoon.
It really is a tough cartoon, and it's difficult to see, and it's also difficult to think of what she is experiencing now and going through, as well as what the community has gone through this whole thing. So, I mean, did you hear from the mayor? Do you generally hear from those who don't agree with your view?
I do hear from people that don't agree with my view, and I see their comments on social media. I did not hear from the mayor, and I've never heard from Jeff Landry. I have heard from politicians in the past who I've picked on in my cartoons, and usually it goes something like this: can I get a signed copy of the cartoon? And my response is, did you see the actual cartoon? Do you see what it's about? But, that does happen. And but I did not hear from the mayor here.
Okay. All right, let's go. Speaking of Governor Landry, here we go. He's noted in this one, too.
Yeah, so Governor Landry, I mean, he makes no secret of the fact that he's all in on the Trump agenda. Even, I think he said, we have a big, new, beautiful coach when Lane Kiffin came to LSU. So he uses the Trump lingo, and he is all bought in on the MAGA agenda. So I just thought it would be funny, and I think I've actually drawn him like this a couple of times with Trump's hair. And this is when he was anxious to deploy the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and he's wearing the long red tie and so on and so forth. And amazingly, even though he's a Republican governor, we're in a Republican state, a lot of my Republican friends love this cartoon. So there's something going on there with the popularity of Jeff Landry, and I've done several cartoons about him, although he has not asked for the originals.
And that definitely is Trump hair. I love the Trump hair.
Yeah. What was the whole thing? Remember the story about Boss Tweed, about the cartoon satirizing me? He said, look, this is good publicity. And so a lot of politicians have realized even when they're ridiculed, it's good for them.
Okay, and so now coming up to the next one.
So I've done a couple of cartoons on the Border Patrol in New Orleans. One was when it was first announced, I had a Border Patrol agent with his face covered looking into a window in New Orleans, and staring back was like a Mardi Gras mask, like a happy, sad mask, looking aghast at this person entering the city. And then, trying to use imagery or a feel of what New Orleans represents in many ways to, a way to show what New Orleans is all about. Obviously, we do parades better than anyone. And this is an awful parade. So that was, putting my opinion in there and having this crowd and having these guys came in. And I just tried to make the wording as simple as possible. I thought the image said it all.
It does. It definitely says it all. Okay, wrapping up our local group. I think a lot of people are going to identify with this.
As a huge Saints fan, I feel a little bit bad that I put this in the year in review stuff. But let's be honest. The beginning of the season was awful to watch. I'm very hopeful now, but that's another topic. But anyway, with the LSU and the Saints falling apart, and Halloween. So who's gonna go as a Saints fan? Who's gonna go as a Tigers fan?
Yeah,
that was a pretty popular one at the time.
I think there are a lot of folks out in the community who remember the paper bags. We have not seen those paper bags brought out.
We have not.
In
They've
force,
come
but
close.
There was a time. They've come close, but there was a time when the Superdome was filled with paper bag ads. So we remember that. Okay, that sort of does it for the local ones that your retrospective, and so we are going to move now more into the national and global scene. And as usual, Walt has a lot to say about that too, and we're going to start with our president.
Well, hypocrisy is the best ingredient to do cartoons, to point that out. And so Trump talks an awful lot about law and order, and he had pardoned the January 6 folks, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, cop beaters. So I thought this was, again, the cartoon has to have a lot of truth to it for the satire to work, and I think this one worked, and I like the drawing of them. So
yes,
that's
and
that.
I think it did resonate with a lot of folks. Continuing now with
The second one is really, pretty clear. I think the checks and balances, both in the courts and in Congress, are very weakened with Trump. And this one had a little bit of a Mardi Gras feel to it, too, with the jesters. So if Trump keeps acting like a king, we humor him, and what's that make us? So you are a court jester, and you need to step up and be the check and balance.
Right, and of course
that's expected.
This goes hand in hand with the No Kings movement, too, across
Yes.
the country. Okay, here we are. Gulf
The
of
next
America.
one's kind of funny. There was all this talk about Gulf of America, and this donkey is saying too much Trump news, need to get away, a little fresh air, back to nature, and paddles out into the Gulf and runs into the sign. So that one was fun to draw, and also just aghast that we're changing names of the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, there's just so much stuff. It's impossible to keep up with the amount of stuff that happens in the White House.
A lot of material for you.
It's impossible.
Yes.
You come up with a concept and you're in the middle of drawing it, and there's breaking news, and there's breaking news twice, 2-3 times in a day. Everything's upping the thing that you're drawing. It's very tough, very tough.
I got to say, I just love your little donkey character. I love his expressions. It's great. Okay, keeping on.
So this was done quite a while ago, I guess earlier in the year. What you spreading? And he says fresh manure, and of course it's the Trump tariffs. And then just recently, there was talk of a bailout for the farmers.
Right.
They're getting hurt. Not to mention the speech the other day, where Trump was talking about
before
all the
Christmas.
wonderful things that were happening, and I'm like, no. I mean, you can keep saying that prices are going down, but everybody's just finished shopping for the holidays, and they're not getting raises. So, anyway, a lot of manure being thrown around.
We still do hear a lot of people complaining about grocery prices, that's for sure. All right, and then also, this one really gave me a chuckle, too.
Well, on the other side
really
of the aisle, with all that I just talked about and all the cartoons I've done about Trump and the fact that, his polls are down, the Democrats don't seem to have a real answer. Now, they need to get their act together if they're going to be able to counter this. And this was drawn earlier and just shows, they can't put the puzzle together at this point.
Do you think the pieces have fallen in a little bit more since you've drawn this cartoon?
I mean, I think so. And I think the other side's pieces have fallen apart a little bit. So we shall see. But, post the election last year, there was a lot of disarray, and I think that we shall see.
Well, yeah.
From a cartoonist perspective, does the Democratic donkey image, is that more fun to work with than a Republican would be?
No, I think all the imagery, the elephant and the donkeys, are easy to draw. I've been drawing them forever and ever, and they're fun and easy to draw and recognizable. I thank Thomas Nast for that, so that's where that all started.
Right. Okay, on to the next one. This is over July 4th.
Yeah, July 4th. This is just, kind of the endless drama, if you will, and the chaos of the Trump presidency and just the way the whole country is. There's just so much going on, and these are never-ending fireworks.
And you detail them, too. Medicaid cuts, ICE raids, FEMA cuts, endless drama, tariffs, insults, and big, beautiful spending bill. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This hasn't changed. It's just a different season, different fireworks.
All righty.
The next one was related to Trump has a tendency to declare national emergencies rather than going through the process of passing laws and signing laws. So, this is missing a golf putt, and the hairspray is empty, and the burger is cold. I've declared 3 new national emergencies. The most fun you can have is when you can make people laugh, and at the same time you're making a point at the end. That, to me, is a win. And this was tricky because the second panel was hard to draw that way. I've drawn his hair as this sort of, swirling a typhoon, and never drawn it where it's all blown off and he's got a bald spot. So that was the challenge on that one.
But he has to have been fun for you to draw.
He was fun to draw. It's most of the stuff I was drawing about him was not very fun.
You know, in
All
doing
right,
political characters, I mean, you all have to hone in on some kind of physical characteristic. The obvious thing for him is the hair.
Yeah.
What's it going to be like for Elena Moreno? What would you depict there?
You know, I drew her when she won. So her hair style with her hair up, and high cheekbones. So there's always some way to caricature someone. You know, going back to in the beginning, I did Reagan. That was also his hair, and he had kind of a wrinkly face. And George H.W. Bush, also the hair, the glasses, the chin. Bill Clinton with the sort of wide and long face with a little poof of hair at the top there. Obama with the ears and the long chin. There's always a way, and with Trump, the hair is definitely there.
And let's move on so we can get to all of these. Let's go to the next one now.
So RFK Jr. has been a target of my cartoons for a long time. The whole anti-vax thing to me is ridiculous, and here he's saying you'll be fine without the paddle, and the kids and the doctor are going over the waterfall to measles and mumps and polio.
The paddle being the vaccines.
Yes.
And next?
And next we have the nonstop but non-fully understood Epstein files with Trump somewhat tied under it. I mean, we don't know how this is all going to end up, but every time he tried to pull away from it, another thing would drop and more information would come out. So,
okay, and to conclude our global perspective here, it's a very peaceful one.
Yes, and Pope Francis and had done so many wonderful things, and I really don't do a lot of cartoons about religion, but this is really about the man and about all the things that he did that unified the world and helped people, and I felt that was. That worked well.
And reaching out to and seeking help for people in need, too.
Absolutely.
That is what Pope Francis did. Okay, all right, so that's our national perspective. We're going to do now, quickly do a Walt, retrospective. You wanted to take a look at some of the ones that really stuck out to you that you've done over the years.
Yeah,
so
when
let's
I
go to that
got
one.
here in the late 80s, David Duke was on the scene, coming onto the scene. These cartoons were all done in black and white with pen and ink before there was color in the newspaper. And I always drew David Duke in a hood, and I always spelled his name that way. And
You
so
can see
I
that
thought,
D-U-K-K-K-E. That's how he spells it.
so this one was one that I thought was very powerful, and has always been one that I've shown as sort of one of my old cartoons. I did get a call from a bunch of guys in a bar after this cartoon ran, and they passed the phone down, and each one of them yelled at me and cussed me out. I was very proud of that. Didn't bother me in the least.
All right, on to the next.
This was when there was the whole discussion of building a casino here. And this guy saying, do you really think casino will affect our way of life? And this guy says, Wayne Newton's playing a Tipitinas tonight. There's a long story involved in this cartoon. In the aftermath of the cartoon, Roland von Kernikowski ended up purchasing Tipitinas. I was in New York at the time, and I got an email from him, and he said, I saw your cartoon. I didn't realize that Tipitinas, which was an iconic place, which I thought was unusual.
Yeah.
And he said, and I decided to buy it. And he blew this cartoon up really big, and it was on the second floor of Tipitinas for years, which I thought was very cool.
And also, you bring up the casino controversy, because it was, for those who don't recall it or weren't around for it, there was a really, really big controversy about whether or not we should have casinos and legalized gambling.
Yes.
And of course, we do.
And now every place has them.
On to the next.
And this is also similar with Edward saying gambling's not my top priority, as some would have you believe. My number one priority is a constitutional convention. We could have it in Vegas. I just love this cartoon because you're looking way back in time. This was a big issue, constitutional convention. He was tied up with gambling, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought that was a great way to tie it together.
Yeah,
He did deliver on both, though, gambling and the Constitutional Convention. So
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
I never said he didn't deliver, but it was he was, Louisiana is the best place to be a cartoonist. Look at the characters that we've just seen in this little array, and that's leaving out years of Bobby Jindal and others.
Right.
So many.
Governor Edwin Edwards has to be about at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Because he was quite a colorful character.
Yes, he was.
Very, very astute politician, to say the least. A brilliant man. All righty.
So this one goes all the way back to '92. I was a season ticket holder, and the Saints would get in they'd get huge leads, and we'd be sitting in there. I'd be doing the math. this is what can happen in 6 minutes. And it was depressing. But hang on, sports fans, with 3 minutes to go and the Saints leading 127-3. This is still anybody's game.
And it could have been. We hope those days are gone.
Yeah.
Okay, and this also.
And then the
which is
last
great.
one was back in the day before cell phones. People would go to Jazz Fest and you'd say at 3 o'clock, let's meet at the flagpole. And so when I started recognizing that, I was like, wouldn't that be funny if everyone decided they would meet at the flagpole at the same time? And I drew this cartoon, which I've basically posted on Facebook for years and years and years. And it was just a fun cartoon, just sort of love doing cartoons like this that says, hey, I live here.
Yeah.
This is a great event. And wouldn't it be funny if this happened? All the little venues around the flagpole are empty.
Right.
So I always like this cartoon.
I know, and those who are Jazz Fest goers or have been, for decades now, they totally get this.
Yes.
They completely understand.
Yes.
People do still meet at the flagpole. That's just a great. It just speaks to our culture so well. It really does. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, all of these are just so fantastic. It's really been wonderful having you in our community doing this work. And as I said, chuckling, but also maybe crying a little, getting angry about it. Mm-hmm. You made us think. You definitely did. So in this next, let's say, minute or so and a half, just kind of describe your feelings now that you're going to move on. You're not going to have that pressing deadline anymore. But will you continue to think and look at us the same way? Think about and look at
Well,
us?
absolutely. I mean, what's changing is the deadline. My desire to do creative stuff is still there, and obviously our desire to live in New Orleans is set. So we shall see. I want to take time off for a month or so and just relax, and then we'll see what direction all this goes into.
Because all of these didn't come easy. I mean, it takes you time to put all this together, even though you make it look like it just came so easily to you.
Well, I think that's the fun of cartooning, that the reader sees that they spend 5 or 7 seconds with your work. And, a good cartoon should look like it was very easy. Yeah. But the truth of it is, it's 4 or 5 hours of looking at a blank sheet of paper and making lists and trying to figure out what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. And you have to get it all done by 4:30. So it'll be nice to be able to step from that pressure. And who knows where the creativity will go, or whether my golf game will get better, or both.
Well, we'll be looking for the creativity, and good luck with your golf game, and enjoy it. Thanks so much, Walt.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
doing this.
Always
You've
been
been
fun.
with us
Yep.
now for 3 years, and we've really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Great New Year to you.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate
And
it.
thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you again next week for Informed Sources. Have a good evening.
Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
We count on Informed Sources to continue the discussion on important local issues.
It's where our top journalists discuss stories they've covered. Stay informed with Informed Sources.
Support for this program comes from the Gail and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation, committed to funding educational causes.
This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.